Brought in a fellow I regard as a specialist in obtaining confessions. And he didn't succeed, and it frustrated him. They took a 15-year-old boy out to the woods, and the others left them alone, gave them their privacy, so they'd have plausible deniability. They left him with this specialist. And that man punched him in the stomach twice and punched him in the face. And he beat a 15-year-old boy because he said he was innocent. That's a Miller?
Yeah.
He looked worse than this when I saw him.
Yeah, he looked much worse than that when I took the pictures.
This one is good, but it still doesn't show him the way I saw him.
No, I saw him the same day you saw him, and right in here was just swollen, awful. Usually I wait to the end of the interview on the interview sheet to do the photos. We stopped as soon as he came in to take them because it was so apparent right in here. You can see the glare a little bit better as far as the leverage.
Can Andrew do anything to enhance the resolution?
But as far as it being on an African-American, the skin tone's a lot different.
But we're going to need to explain to a jury this doesn't accurately
Right.
to show the way he looked. But this one's pretty good. And I contacted the state attorney, which is something I generally don't do that early in a case. And I gave the state my photographs, and I told him what I believed we could prove. And it didn't matter because they were politically in a position where they felt they had to prosecute to defend the honor of these detectives. And everything that has happened since then, I believe, has been an effort to defend the honor of these detectives, who I do not find to be honorable men.
Could you state your name, please?
Michael Glover,
And where are you employed?
the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I'm assigned to the Homicide Division.
How long have you been with the Homicide Division?
5 years,
And how long have you been with the Sheriff's Office?
11 years.
Where did you first meet Mr. Butler?
In the Homicide Office in one of our interview rooms.
And what happened when you first went into the interview room?
When I first walked in, I saw the defendant, and the defendant looked at me, and he made a comment that indicated, "Boy, am I glad to see you."
Did you then have a conversation with him?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I asked him, was it an accident? And it was at that point, he nodded his head and said yes, and said, "I didn't mean to shoot the victim." He began to hug me and cry, and I hugged him back, and he said that the victim had given him a mean look. Well, it was at that point I got close to his ear, and I said, "Why did you shoot the lady?" And at that point, he said he didn't mean to hurt anybody. He just needed her purse. After that, he immediately made a statement saying that he had the gun down by his side, and he raised the gun up toward her face, and it fired. And that's pretty much when he said after that, he threw the weapon somewhere, but he didn't remember where he threw the weapon.
What happened then?
At that part of the interview, I asked him to tell me again what happened with the weapon, and this time I wanted you to be truthful about it. And it was at that point he stated that he put the weapon on the back of a 18-wheeler truck. And I told him, well, you've been truthful, and you've been communicating with me, you've been cooperating with me, and I was explaining to him how I appreciated that. But I told him that I didn't believe that he actually placed the weapon in the purse on the back of a 18-wheeler truck. And I asked him again, tell me, where did you put the weapon? And it was at that point he stated that he threw the weapon in the woods near the scene.
Yes, he is a black man. His father also is a sheriff. So it's just like, whatever Glover says, a lot of people believe it's credible evidence, you know. And he has been involved in so many different things. I'm angry due to the fact when he said that when Brent saw him, He just hugged him and said, "I'm so glad to see you." And I know Brent better than that because you really have to approach him, go up and talk with him. And he's not the type of person that will run up and hug you. You all probably have seen that in the courtroom, you know, he kind of stays to himself. So it's like what Glover is saying, like I said, I don't believe it.
During that time period when you were in the woods with the defendant, other than holding the belt, did you touch him in any way?
No, ma'am.
Did you hit him?
No, ma'am.
Did you raise your voice?
No, ma'am.
Did you make any threats?
No, ma'am.
Did you threaten his family?
No, ma'am.
And then also the interview you'd already had with him, did you ever threaten him or his family?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Mr. Glover, how are you?
Yes, sir.
You related to Nat Glover?
Yes, sir.
He's the sheriff.
Yes, sir.
When did he become sheriff?
4 years ago.
Was it July 1st, 1995?
Yes, sir.
Was it 95 when you became a homicide detective?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They were stuck with a problem. You got 2 lieutenants, 2 sergeants. You got the media camped out with trucks there already. You got a white tourist in Florida at a motel killed.
But they're not getting anywhere on the confession, so they think, okay, we'll pull in an African-American to see if he can establish some rapport with the child. Glover said, and I find this incredible, that the police, that Williams and Darnell told him that they thought the child was ready to confess. Those were the words he used, if I remember. So he goes in with a state of mind that, hey, this kid's ready to confess. Where the first hostility comes about is when he says, I did some bad things in my life, and the kid says, I've never had any dealings with the police. And Glover gets upset and says, you're lying. And it's niggers like you that make me mad.
You were there to get a confession. We've established that, right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't know whether he was innocent or guilty, right?
No, sir, not at that point.
You told Brenton Butler to be truthful, right?
Yes, sir.
But you had a very particular idea of the truth you wanted, right?
Yes, sir.
You wanted him to say something different than what he'd been telling the other detectives since 10 o'clock that morning, right?
No, sir. I mean, if he was involved in the incident, I wanted the truth in regards to him of his involvement.
You, set yourself right up in his face, knee to knee, right?
Yes, sir, I did.
And they teach you that in those interrogation schools you go to?
Yes, sir.
You've been to 5 of those, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they tell you to get some physical contact with the subject of the interview, don't they?
What do you mean when you say physical contact?
Touching people.
Yes, sir. It's part of some of the techniques we use are in reference with touching people.
Okay. And you grabbed his hand, didn't you?
I held his hand.
I never referred to Glover as Detective Glover because he didn't do any detective work in this case. And it bothers the witness when he's not called by the title he thinks he should have. And my purpose when I'm trying to show someone is lying is to make them uncomfortable, to make them off guard. Sometimes I like it when they fight me, because when they do, I believe I'm going to win. How tall are you, sir?
5'11",
What do you weigh?
240 pounds.
Okay. You played high school ball?
Yes, sir.
College ball?
Yes, sir.
Played lineman?
Yes, sir.
As a lineman, you hit people?
Yes, sir.
You were on scholarship?
Yes, sir.
You hit people well?
Yes, sir.
And you hit them hard, right?
Yes, sir.
And do you think a 240-pound man, considerably his senior, grabbing his hand was going to make Mr. Butler more comfortable and more willing to chat with you?
Yes, sir.
Is that generally the response you get when you go around grabbing guys' hands?
So I don't go around grabbing guys' hand. I did that procedure from the comment he made to me when I first entered the interview room.
Well, did you ask Mr. Butler, Brent, little buddy that you're holding his hand, where'd you get the gun?
No, sir.
Did you ask him who might have ever seen him with this gun?
No, sir.
Did you ask him where he got ammunition for this gun?
No, sir.
Did you ask him where he stored it?
No, sir.
You ask him how or where he carried it to or from the scene?
No, sir.
You just weren't curious at that time?
Not at that time, no, sir.
Okay. Gotten curious since?
Yes, sir.
Done any more investigating?
No, sir. That's not my case.
Not my responsibility?
No, sir.
Yeah. Well, weren't you a little bit interested in the murder weapon?
Recovering it, yes, sir.
Didn't you even want to know what type it might have been?
No, sir, not at that time.
Why would 3 detectives take Brent out into the woods? And I don't think that they would take him out to the woods solely for the purpose of roughing him up. I just don't believe that.
Glover suggested it, that's why.
But Williams, who's the lead detective, presumably would know that those woods had been searched already by patrol officers and dogs.
Yeah, Williams doesn't know jack about his own case.
They would have to have a good faith basis to believe that perhaps the gun and purse were in the woods, don't you think?
I think. Well, we haven't broken the kid. We know he got picked up around here. It's a good chance he dumped the gun. Let's go see if we can find it. And if we can, we'll confront him with him and maybe get a confession. If I'm understanding you correctly, you're telling us you're having this conversation with Brenton Butler, and he says he threw the gun in the woods, right?
That's correct.
Did he say where he was when he threw this gun into the woods?
On the roadway.
So it would be within an arm's throw of the roadway, right?
I'll still be guessing, but yes, sir.
Well, he didn't say he kicked it, right?
No, sir.
He didn't say the gun had wings or anything like that, right?
No, sir.
So you think an arm's throw is a fair inference from what you remember?
Depends on how hard he threw it.
Joyner and Darnell were supposedly parked on the far side of Cagle. According to Williams, they spent like an hour in these woods. According to Darnell, it was 15 minutes. And just walking through these woods with all the vines in handcuffs at dusk, with only the good Detective Glover to help you, would be a scary proposition. But if it's dusk and Glover's hitting Brent, there's no way they're going to be able to see it from out there. How long during your walk in the woods were you out of sight of Detectives Darnell, Williams, and Sergeant Joyner?
Maybe 30 minutes.
Do you know why everybody left you?
He was pretty much searching the immediate area where he originally showed.
But you had the guy who was supposed to know where the gun was, right?
Yes, sir.
And on the trip to the woods, he had himself trussed up kind of like a Christmas turkey with arms in front and tied to his belt, and you had a little strap in the back?
Yes, sir. He was cuffed.
Okay. And he really was not in a position to defend himself at all should he be attacked by anybody, right?
I wouldn't let anybody attack him.
You right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
So if you're facing somebody, you pop them, do you more often hit the right or left side?
Objection, Your Honor. That is a total...
Yes, sustain the objection to the formal question.
Now, you've gone out there, you say,